If you lie to the government, they'll put you in prison. But when they lie to all of us, it's called being a politician. You think taking guns away will save our kids from the killings? But you're pro-choice, abortion kills way more children. If America's so terrible and racist, it probably isn't safe to encourage immigration. Just saying, all the contradictions are embarrassing. You know who hates America the most? Americans. Trigger warnings used to be on TV for seizures, and now they're everywhere to protect millennials' feelings. He, she, his, him, hers, them, they. Screw a pronoun, cause everyone's a retard these days. I hear him preaching at the protest that hatred's the problem, but hating straight men, white folks, and Christians is common. Coca-Cola telling people they should be less white. They preach intolerance, but if you disagree, they fight. There's a race war here, elections based on fear. Black lives only matter once every 4 years. Soldiers died for this country, and every one of us benefits. Give welfare to the bums and forget about the veterans. Black folks and white folks divided by the news, but we are all the same. We are red, white, and blue. Ashamed to be American? Okay, that's cool. Cause honestly, we are all ashamed of you too.
Y'all are so fake, oh no. The forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can't make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane. More flames, oh no. No more snowflakes.
They set us up to fail, that's what they built the system for. Put an ammunition shop across the street from a liquor store. Empowering women used to be different than this before. The role models got OnlyFans or dance on a stripper pole. Screw it, I ain't tripping, I don't mean to be mean, but if our children are the future, then our future is bleak. They take an Adderall to focus, hit McDonald's to eat. They're addicted to phones and they take Xanax to sleep. They blurred the lines dividing communism and democracy. In 2021, we paint the patriots as Nazis. The men playing women's sports get trophies for winning. Like, great, let's celebrate a man for beating some women. If you're black, your life matters, you're supposed to embrace it. If you're rich or you're smart, then you're probably Asian. If you're gay, then you're brave, all of that I'm okay with. But if you're white, the stereotype is you are a racist. Blaming capitalism like that's the reason things are tough. While you tweet from an iPhone and sip on a Starbucks. You're supporting what you stand against, you don't think you are, but a Percocet addict don't donate money to pharma. Damn dog, we're all afraid to speak the truth, and the more afraid we get, the more we hate the ones who do. You're ashamed to be American? Okay, that's cool, cause honestly, we are all ashamed of you too.
Y'all are so fake, oh no. The forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can't make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane. More flames, oh no. No more snowflakes.
We can all get along, but there's no stopping. Everybody's wrong, that's the real problem. They don't wanna hear it, but they still talking. Soon enough, we running out of options. This ain't gonna end till it's in the coffin. We ain't gonna be friends till we try to squash it. I don't know how we can make amends or we drop it. Snowflakes melt when it's hot, kid.
Y'all are so fake, oh no. The forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can't make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane. More flames, oh no. No more snowflakes.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Let's see if the sound is on. Let's hold on. Let's see. Yep, the sound is on. Usually it messes around with me. Welcome to Thursday night show. Like everyone knows that follows me, Thursday nights are my favorite time of the week because we know the weekend is just around the corner. And how time flies. I was just saying that tonight with the girlfriend. She's like, I'm glad the weekend's here, but it's like, yes, I'm glad the weekend's almost here, but the week went by way too fast. And the faster it goes, it just feels like we're getting older faster than we should be. I remember enjoying every single day like it was a Friday. I don't know what it is these days. It just seems like the the older you get, the faster the days go by. You know what I mean? I think everyone can relate to that. So before we start off doing the shout outs to the, the family, the freedom fighters, the common sensors, the pure bloods, once upon a time, pure bloods are patriots down in America. And of course, our patriots up here in Canada. I welcome you all. And I've got a lot of things to show you guys tonight and some common sense things. And first thing is to doing the shout outs. First shout out tonight is going to Gilles Bourgeois, Miss Yolanda, Judy Horn from Kentucky, Miss Carrie from Ontario, Vincent, brother from a different mother in Rishabuktu. How you doing, Mac? How you doing, Dan? Camaro Chevy Girl, or Roland, Mike Boom, Brent, all the way from North Carolina. Played golf today? Yeah, I played one round of golf this summer, my friend. One round of golf. Same thing like last year. I think 2 rounds. Just disgusting. How you doing, Miss Therese? Denny the Jet Cormier, brother from a different mother. Brenda Pryor, another brother from a different mother. Martin. Miss Kathy McHatton. That's a new one. I don't think I remember that name, but who knows? What's up, Johnny from Niagara Falls? Marcel Robbie Show. Amanda from the island. Mezzalina from Northern California. Miss Nancy from the Rock. Jeanne from Moncton, my hometown. Miss Pam. Andrea from Penfield, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Sorry. Annette, Sean, brother from a different mother from Oshawa. Mr. Dan Sear, Juanita, Andrea from Newfoundland. Freedom Lynn from Niagara Falls. Freedom Lynn, did they really get rid of all those immigrants that were taking up all those hotels? Something like over 300 hotels, rooms, that is. I don't know. That's what the Liberals are saying, that they literally took them all out and placed them somewhere else. Like they literally had 90% of all the hotel rooms in the past 18 months. Because obviously Niagara Falls lives off of tourism, but nobody's going to go to Niagara Falls when all the hotels are taken. So yeah, let us know if you're seeing a difference in Ontario, or it's a big lie. How you doing, Maria Dag, Miss Carolyn Vauteur? Who else? Pauline, Dale, Miss Janice from Home Depot, Marcel the Tiger Dion, who's in Jamaica Mun right now, following along. How you doing, Miss Denise? Sylvia from the island, of course. Jeanette. Who else? Pauline Johnson. I hate rap, but I don't mind him. Yeah, you can't mind Tom McDonald. I don't care for rap either, but I mean, if you can listen to that song and mini songs. When I first started my podcast, guys, 5 years ago, I used to open up with Tom McDonald. I don't know if anyone remembers following me from my very life. I can't remember. If I actually have someone from 5 years ago that's been following me for 5 years, if you have from the very first time in 2020, let me know, because I can't remember. It's been so long. But I used to start off with my Tom McDonald's for every intro. And it's been so long I can't remember. It's when he first started coming out. Just to let you know. She says, what's this? How you doing, Michelle Hurt? And Pauline says, I'm losing hope in Canada. Don't lose hope. Miss Henderson, or NJ Henderson from, I'm going to think that's Virginia. Terry Green from Ottawa. It's at Punjabi Falls in Niagara Falls, Punjabi Falls. Yeah, they did relocate the immigrants. Okay. They didn't I'm back home now, he says. Okay. Hello, Jeff. And how you doing, Mr. Kirk, all the way from out west to parts unknown, I guess we could say. Hi, Kirk. So yeah, just they relocated them to a town near you, just to let you know. So it's not any better. It's not any better. It's better for Niagara Falls, but it's not any better for everybody else. All right, first things first. I don't know if you guys know about this, but on the budget, obviously, they've been smearing. The Liberal Party's been smearing, Pierre Poilievre, because they're scared of him. Obviously, with the polls are going around, even though I don't follow the polls, no one should be following the polls. But the Liberal Party are starting to tank on the real polls, obviously. So what they're doing, they're trying to smear Pierre Poilievre in the next 2 months, because his leadership race is in January. They want to replace him with that fat tub of shit, which would be Doug Ford. We'll see when the leadership race comes around if Doug Ford is not going to be out there, trying to put his name. And I'm sorry, guys, I don't make fun of fat people, but for him, he's a walk-in. He's a poster boy for heart disease and obesity. That person is just a walk-in heart attack. All right, just to let you know. And no one's going to tell me that he's actually in it for the people. No, he hasn't been in it. He's actually got a picture right now with Jolie, like literally Jolie sitting on his desk. I've got the picture. I don't care about sharing it with you guys. But when you have a liberal minister, Jolie, who's just a complete disaster, sitting on the desk with a conservative, I almost called him governor, with a conservative premier, that at the end of it, there's no positive side of it. I don't care. You're a traitor. In my eyes, you're a complete traitor. I just, I don't know what else to say, right? Let bygones be bygones. Sure, I'll let this liberal piece of shit that's been destroying our government affairs in the last with Trudeau and all that. I don't even know what she was doing with Trudeau. I can't remember because I don't really follow the politics, especially for her. But yeah, sitting on the desk, it's just a complete disaster. And I don't know if he's doing this to think, to gain more spots or, to gain rapport, to gain points. Because I at the end of the day, he's not going to gain anything, to be honest with you. It's actually pretty much exploiting him. It's pretty much showing everybody, especially that voted conservative, of what a real complete piece of garbage he really is. Speaking of complete pieces of garbage, check this 30-second video out of them reporting the amount of corruption in the last many years in Canada. All right, check out this video. Some of you guys seen it, some of you guys didn't, but check this out.
I want to be very clear. We can prove that every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China. Every government were informed at one point or another. Every government choose to ignore CISA's warning either by negligence, self-interest, or partisanship. Every government were infiltrated by agents of influence acting on behalf of the Chinese government, and we knew who they were.
So the question I ask you guys here is, why is the news not covering this? Because this is like top of the line news. This should be splattered all over the fake news right now. You got to remember, this has to be true. Do you know what would happen if this wasn't true? Can anybody put up their hands and tell us if this wasn't true and this was misinformation, disinformation? Do you know the consequences that person would have? Right? Because I'm going to get to another consequence in a second. Do you know what the consequences would be for this person to be splattering disinformation, misinformation? Does anybody know? This gentleman wouldn't even have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out at the end of the day. So at the end, it is completely not 99% truth, but 110% truth of how corrupted and taken over the Parliament really is on both sides. More liberals though, but on both sides. NDP too, we all know about Jagmeet Singh too, right? On all sides. More though with the liberals. So we'll let that go. And speaking of pieces of crap, check out this liberal MP literally giving it to Carney, because this liberal MP was a minister for the Liberals once upon a time, apparently. So what happened is when Carney got voted in, he took this person and put him in the back row. Now this MP, who's from Ontario, is pissed off, and I don't blame him. He's like, and Carney brought in one of his friends to take his place. So check this out. He's talking about the budget. This budget, literally saying that this budget is literally impossible for Canadians. You would have to be a complete moron to even agree with any percentage of this budget. Check this out. It's a minute and 30 seconds.
First, stalled climate action, cutting tree planting, moving away from an emissions gap, winding down greener homes. No new money for climate action. on housing. It falls short of these specific promises in our platform, and it unfortunately falls well short of the wartime effort that many of us thought we'd deliver. The budget adds $140 billion in new spending over 5 years, $90 billion net after savings, and only 36% of the net new spending is capital. My kids shouldn't pay for today's military or for me to save $400 of income taxes. We see the budget commit to a new inefficient fossil fuel subsidy for LNG facilities. We do not need more public dollars chasing fossil fuel. Worse, we see major cuts of over $2.5 billion over 4 years to international development assistance. Overall, the budget meets the moment in part, but fairly, it does not live up to its promise of generational investments.
I can finally comfortably say I agree with the Liberal minister. The budget is horrible. And just to add to what he said, on a cash basis, that $280 billion that Mark Carney is looking at doing in capital expenditures, on a cash basis, meaning the cash outlay that we Canadians have to pay interest on, is actually nearly $500 billion. $500 billion. And let's not forget that he decided to cut the tax. The only tax cuts that you saw in there were on boats, yachts, and private jets. Mark Carney removed.
Yeah. So yeah, in that budget, he only removed taxes on luxury yachts and planes. You can't make this stuff up. It just blows my mind. And speaking of blowing my mind, I had something else here. Where is it? Am I going to? Speaking of Mark Carney, so. If you guys don't know, you're going to know. So the Liberal parliamentary budget officer. So he's the guy that takes care and watches the budget. All right. He's been doing this for 15 years, guys, since 2010. 15 years came out and said this budget is completely fudged. It does. He said it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It's going to break us to the point that he said it will demolish Canada. We won't even be known as a country within 10 years. Like if this budget were to pass, no, did I say 10 years? Sorry, not 10 years. 1 year. So you know what they did? The Liberal Party, Mark Carney, is they fired him. That's right. Carney to replace the budget officer with a muzzled DEI hired and pundit question. Anyway, so what they did is his job is now up. Okay. And they literally said, we would prefer people of color. Yes. Female, LGBTQTBINGO, basically DEI, someone with integrity. Can you imagine that? The word integrity, to have that position. You can't get any worse than this. And speaking of can't get any worse, Mr. Green slush and saving the carbon and doing all this, he literally just cut the program of over 2 billion trees were supposed to be planted. He literally cut it where he sliced it in half, and they're not going to do the 2 billion trees to be planted. They're only going to do the 1 billion trees that already been planted and not the other billion. So the question I ask you, all right? Yes, we all know, Amanda, there's an agenda, and that's why Carney's there. We all know this. It's for you guys to be sharing this with everybody, all right? Not telling me, but to be sharing it with everybody. And I don't care if you lose friends, family, spouses, and stuff like that. You got to get it out there. Yes, it's an agenda. But what is the number one thing? All right. Number one thing that trees do. It's a grade 6 biology question. What is the number one most important thing that trees do? We'll see if you guys can answer that grade 6 biology question. We'll see. We'll give you guys 30 seconds. Usually I'm about 10 seconds behind for lagging. Anybody knows what trees do? All right. So Mo says they eat carbon. Norman says oxygen. Carbon, exactly. So they soak up carbon and they produce oxygen. So the filters, like lungs. So with that being said, Mr. Carbon Take, grab carbon and sell it in carbon credits. You have to be a complete moron to, that's what gets me about liberal voters. That's what just these boomers, I can't look at an old person now, and I'm not going to say the age, okay, because I don't want to insult people. And I see them like they're walking down my street the other day, and I'm looking at them, and is it just me? I'm looking at them and I'm analyzing. These are the, I'll beep out the words, that are voting liberal, that are destroying us, and they don't even know what a damn tree does. Guaranteed. They don't even know what a damn tree does. All right? So as they're getting scared about the climate change and carbon, and you got Carney that's cutting 1 billion tree planting, that is the number one thing that soaks up carbon and, produces oxygen. It's the grade 6 biology question that everybody should know, except boomers. I guess they didn't teach that in grade 6 in boomer age. But yeah, it's just shocking. All right. It's shocking. And it brings up so much hatred. And speaking of hatred, check this out. Stop it. If the people didn't watch my live today, I did like a 15-minute live on Facebook, which got, a lot of views, not as much as it should, obviously, because I'm shadow banned. But Canada rolls out the mandatory digital ID for welfare recipients and also announces plans to roll out mandatory digital ID for all welfare recipients in the country, including OH pension and all that shit. Guys, this is the same playbook they use with the whole COVID crap. All right? Remember that? If you didn't get your shots, you're not going to get your EI, you're not going to get your page, you're not going to do this, you're not going to get that. Remember that? That crap? And people bought into it. They got all scared. Besides, I want to give a minute of silence to the one person that died in New Brunswick today of COVID. Yeah, they announced it on the radio today. Some 65 plus person died of COVID, and it's the 55 person to die of COVID in, since COVID existed, apparently 55. Yeah. Okay. And apparently, it's 55,000. I don't know why, again, 55,000 people went out and got their COVID shots this year, just to let you know. That's the stats. A bunch of people got their flu shots in the 75,000, I think they said, but 55,000 went out and got their COVID shot this year. I don't believe it, for one thing. It's hard to believe because they're trying to make it believable, even though it's not even 10% of the population. But I kind of believe it. Because we really do have that 55,000 retards in New Brunswick. I can see it. If you take the ages of 60 plus, I'm sure there's still 55,000 that are vote liberal that went out and got their COVID shots. And again, mass depopulation, all the power. If you got parents, guys, that are in their boomer age and they're still taking those flu shots and they're still taking COVID shots, do yourself a favor, make some money off of it. Go out and get insurance on them as much as you can possible. At least make some money off of their ignorance. That's the best thing I can, the best advice I can give to you. And speaking of advice, this one is the funniest thing. So Carney moves to militarize the Canadian bureaucracy as 300,000 public servants prepare to, serve some time in the military. That's right. Can you imagine the libtards, the vaccinated libtard, liberal voting, electric car driving, man bun wearing, climate change brainwashing person in our military. So apparently it's a week's course. That's right, a week's course. They're going to give a week's course on military. Can you imagine? We had better odds with our local mall cops, rent-a-cops, before we ever went to war with our military as if now. All right, just to let you know, it's a disgrace. I do have some guys, friends, I don't care if they're listening, that are serving the military or have, but it's a disgrace. Our Canadian military is a disgrace. Always has, always will. We even have a female. Our top military person is a female. Now, I don't know about you guys, and this is not being, because obviously if you're going to call me a male chauvinist and I don't know what other words to use for hating females, I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, you're not going to see a female on the front lines in a war, right? Right? Am I right on that? Because you never are. And if you do, it's always going to be her behind 100 men. I don't care if you agree with it, if you don't, but that's the funniest thing. So to have a top officer that's running our military as a female, again, it's probably the biggest joke that I've ever seen. Just like having Labucky that was running as a female as the top RCMP officer. We all know that's a DI crap. We all know this is a DEI hiree as the female. What did she say again? She excuses herself for the amount of harassment that the females, not the females, the gay people have endured in the military. I think she came out and said that last week, that she feels, and she actually cried in a speech. Yeah, it was pretty like, she could probably have won a Grammy for that bullshit of crying. But anyway, it was pretty funny. So, you can't make this shit up. A week's training for a federal civil servant. What do you say to that? What do you say? And speaking of, if you don't think that there's a show or anything happening, all right, behind the scenes, well, take a good look at this. All right, this is Carney's wife. I don't think she's a female to begin with. I think she's a male, just to let you know. But either way, look at her from the bottom picture. Look at her at the Remembrance Day. Like, look at her chin and her lips. All right, this to me looks like a complete mask. All right, she looks hideous. But I don't think a face can do that. All right, so maybe it's just me, but a lot of people are sharing that. But this, Diane Carney, this is a mask. All right, because a face doesn't do that. All right, just to let you know. So has she been replaced? Like I said, guys, this is all a movie. I don't care what anybody says. So let's read the comments to see. 500-pound firefighters aren't going to save you. Trust me, when I did my firefighting course, and we had some overweight women in there and some men, dude, when it came to the actual assimilations, I was shaking my head. I was just shaking my head saying, there is no way that I'm going to put my life on the line with these females. All right. And this, you guys got to understand, when we were doing simple assimilations and getting on top of roofs with chainsaws, when these girls couldn't get up there because they were scared of heights and they didn't want to go on the ladder and stuff like that. You got to see this. And I was shaking my head. And the thing is when we did our assimilation training, it was like at a real place where they're burning houses, old buildings. But the thing is there was people, all right, there was teams that were actually hired before us doing simulation training of breaking open doors and that. And let's say if a team of 10, there'd be about 4 girls in that training that got hired. And I'd be shaking my head going, as a firefighter, and I have that person, like, you got to understand, if no one's ever been into a fire, which I have, and you can't see nothing, you have your partner behind you to save you of running into a house, hoping that if you fall through or something happens, you got that person to drag you out. You understand? And if I'm 200 pounds and I got 90 pounds of equipment on me, and I got a girl that weighs 130 or 140 at her top, trying to pull me out, 90 pounds, 290 pounds, trust me, you should have seen it. It's a point. Yes, you got a point. It shouldn't be like that. Anyway, 500 pound. Anybody insult me? Running late, but man, I feel safer if we cut the Boy Scout loose to protect us. Are you still having people go for the shingle shots? No. Okay. So anyway, either way, it's look at the fat lesbians in the LA fires. Yeah, that one was funny. The three, remember guys, I showed you the videos of the three people that were in charge in LA for the fires. They were all females for the fire department. Like, you got to lose your effing mind if you don't see what the hypocrisy is in this. Call me a male chauvinist, whatever you want to call me. Just don't call me collect, and don't call me late for dinner. And if you're making shepherd's pie, like Marcel Perry would say, if you're making shepherd's pie, please, for the love of God, do not put cream corn, because I would literally vomit in cream corn in my shepherd's pie. Sorry, Marcel, I had to take that from you, because I love it when you say that when your wife makes shepherd's pie and she puts cream. Okay, back to the Liberal Party, and then we'll get to Trump and all that good stuff. So guess what just happened here, guys? Breaking news. Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney have literally spent a total of $7.1 billion on child support for non-citizens. That's right, not for Canadians, not to improve our roads, to create options for addiction recovery, to solve homelessness crisis, to fight crime, none of that. 7.1 they put out there billion on child support for non-citizens. You can't make this shit up. If you can't figure out why we even send a Canadian dollar to another country, any politician that tells me we need to send a dollar to any kind of country, that person is bought and paid for and shouldn't be running politics. That's the whole point of one of my platforms. I wouldn't send a Canadian penny, even if we could find a penny, I wouldn't send a penny overseas at all, because it doesn't make any sense at all. So I don't know. I don't think Pierre said anything about sending money over. All right. But whoever came up with that philosophy, with that, it's the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do why they send money over is complete to obviously to launder money. It's the only thing. All right. Speaking of laundering money, this comes to mind. Guess what? Top Ukrainian ministers submit their resignations as the country is rocked by a corruption scandal. That's right. As Russia attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, causing rolling blackouts, a major embezzlement scandal involving the state-owned nuclear power company has put top officials under prosecution. That's right. Top Ukrainian ministers, all right, for a corruption. I wonder what that could be, right, guys? They're not going to get away with anything. And I don't know if you know this, but Zelensky bought something like 30 or 40,000 acres of land in the United States, in the middle of the United States. I don't know where, but something like 30,000, 35,000 acres. Guys, that's a lot of land. That's a lot of money that he spent for being the president of Ukraine. I don't recall the president of Ukraine making a lot of money. You understand? I mean, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, doesn't take a pay, but if he did, it's $400,000. 40,000 acres in the United States? I think it's going to take many lifetimes of being in the political power to pay that off, just to let you know. What else? This was another one. Man accused of breaking into 3 Oshawa homes and sexually assaulting multiple women. Now, what is an immigrant doctor and an immigrant engineer, or I don't know if he's a doctor or an engineer, what is he doing on his time off, breaking into homes, Oshawa homes, and sexually assaulting multiple women? Like, what is a doctor? Because that's all they're, bringing in are doctors and engineers. Like, what are they thinking? Are they losing it because they're spending too much time in surgery, so they're losing their mind? All right, just I mean, I don't know what to tell you. What else was there? Oh yeah, here's another good thing, guys. Check this out. All right, check this out. I'm going to show you this. All right, and I'm going to ask you a simple question. Exposed. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney accused of raping little kids on Epstein's Island. Trudeau's out, another puppet in, watch the People's Voice video. So the question I ask you is this. If this isn't true or has any kind of backing to it, if that article was not true, do you know what would happen for that to come out? Do you know what would happen for defamation and slander for whoever put that out if it wasn't true? If it didn't even have an ounce of truth in it, do you have the slightest clue what could happen of defamation and slander? But they're never going to go and do anything, right? They're never going to go and do anything because they can't. They can't, because it would open up a can of worms. So there's got to be some credibility to it. There's got to be some kind of credibility to it, because you just can't put that. This is why he's trying. He's trying his hardest to do the Bill C-3, the Bill C-8, the Bill C-9 to cut all this crap out. Trying his hardest, because there's going to be more. There's going to be more coming out. That's the only reason why Mark Carney is trying to do this whole ban on social media. All right. Carney is cooperating with the movie to get a lesser sentence. Oh yeah, it's a guarantee. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You know how I know that Carney is, doing what Carney needs to do? Because Carney is under a telescope right now, or a microscope. I'll tell you why, because check this out. Donald Trump, I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it would cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. Do you think Donald Trump is completely nuts? Do you think he's literally completely nuts of doing things like this, and it doesn't have merit? Ooh, I'm having big words. And you don't think it has merit to it? Do you think he just lost his mind? You know what I mean? Because he's not losing his mind. Everything he says when it comes down to this, it has merit to it. All right? There's something to it. And someone argued with me on this, and I'm going to get your guys' feedback on this. All right? I want you guys to check this out. All right. Someone argued with me on this. They're trying to make Trump look bad on this post. Here, enjoy this 50-year mortgage. How much is this any different from you will own nothing and you will like it? So they're trying to compare this, what Trump's trying to do, put mortgages up to 50 years from 15 to 50. And this, the Democrats are trying to say, or this actually was a liberal, obviously, that hates Trump, saying, what is the difference of that terminology, of that statement from you will own nothing and you will like it? Can anyone debate what is the difference on that? Let's see what you guys will say from that. All right. The government in the U.S. is opening this evening. The Republicans got enough votes. Yeah, they got 60 to whatever. They got their 60 votes. I reported that last week, which they were. The whole point of this whole shutdown was just to literally reset, I guess you could say. All right. All right. So I just did this. So what would be a common sense analogy to what I just showed you with the 50-year mortgage instead of a 20 or 25-year mortgage, of this person trying to say you will own nothing and be happy? What would be the analogy? What would be a common sense point you can bring out to debate about someone talking about this? All right. Does anybody have use your minds, think outside the box. What do you guys think about that? Anybody? Okay, 50 years and at least you own your home. He's dripping. Okay. I don't know if it's a drip or a drip. Norman's got a little bit of it. Come on, think about it. Why would he say that? I mean, what would be a purpose? Why wouldn't you want to have a 50-year lease or mortgage on your home instead of 2025? right? What would be the difference? All right. Well, the difference is there's some goods and there's some bads. Then why buy a house? Well, Jeanette, why buy a house? Because you can afford to buy a house. Thank you. Lisa got it. Jeanette didn't know the answer. Then why buy a house? Well, affordability, number one, right? Because instead of paying $2,500 for 20 years or 25 years, where you're just basically living to pay for your house, right? Not having so much money to go out and do something, when you can pay $1,000 for the next 50 years. Now, let's keep in mind the interest rates. All right, interest rate. Well, you're not locked in to that interest rate, because the interest rate, let's keep in mind, what did Donald Trump tell everybody about the interests? Remember? Well, Sean got it, no tax. Yeah. Interest going down. There won't be no interest, because interest is against the law. Remember that? Remember that? Because there won't be no interest. Right? You understand? So you're always remortgage. What is it, every 5 years? You can either put more down and go with that interest. Either way, what I'm trying to say, there's going to be no interest on mortgages. In the Texas state, for $400K, you get a $900K house you would pay in Canada. Oh, yeah. You got to see the houses in Texas. I mean, the houses in Texas, they're $1 million homes in Texas. I'm not lying here. They're $1 million homes, all right, for $400K. You should see the homes on this one street. And I'm looking at my girlfriend saying, $400K. They're $1 million homes, all right? It's crazy. Anyway, we'll just leave it to that. But there's a good and there's a bad. But let's keep in mind, Donald Trump is always, and they're starting it out in Florida, where you're not going to be paying interest on mortgages. Remember that? Drip, drip, drip. So, but someone was arguing with me. Well, you'll never own your home. Guess what, guys? Ding, 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 ding. You never, ever, ever, ever will ever in your lifetime own a home. Does anybody know the answer to that? You will never, ever in your life own a home, or your kids or their kids and their grandchildren. Either way. Does anybody know why? Anybody? Do you know why you will never own a home? Even if it's 10-year mortgage, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50? What is the number one reason that you will never own your home? All right, let's see some answers. Bankers. Okay, no, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. Anybody? Lisa said, heard today, U.S. No one owns land. Yeah, Martin's got the answer. Try not paying your property tax because of land tax. Exactly. Try not paying your property tax for a few years and see what happens. You never own your home. Ever own your home. So when someone says, well, you're never going to, why buy property? Why? You never own it in the first place. You might own your home. Try not paying your property tax. See what happens to your home. Okay? That's what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, that goes against of not owning a home. Speaking of common sense, all right? Speaking of common sense, check this out. Since we're talking about the states, since we're talking about common sense. So as an old, before I even get this, I used to own a nightclub for about 8 years. One of the biggest nightclubs in the Maritimes. For the people that know, for the people that don't, I had the biggest nightclub. The amount of people that go there was more than you can imagine. The slowest nights were 600. The busiest nights were 1,200 to 1,800 on New Year's Eve, Halloween, stuff like that. I had the biggest nightclub. Now, the thing my mom used to tell me all the time, she said, I look terrible because I'm always stressed out. Well, that's because there has always been a law that if we ever overserve someone or even serve someone to the point that they got in their car and they get into an accident, those people could come back and sue me as a nightclub owner. That's right. Sue me. I got sued a couple times. I got sued because one time I lost I had to pay 25 grand out of my pocket, not insurance, out of my pocket, because some drunk idiot decided to jump over the rails, even though it's a rail, and jump over to skip the line, got his finger caught in the railing while he jumped over. His finger stayed while he went down. Because of his drunk, stupid ass, I had to pay 25 grand. I had another girl Russian to dance to get on the stage. Rush, cut her leg open. That cost me 10 grand. There's a few grands here and there. But luckily, knock on wood, I never got charged or sued for someone being over intoxicated or intoxicated, get into an accident. But check this out. Here's a common sense question. If bartenders can go to jail for over serving a drunk person who drives and gets into an accident, then what happens to judges? Then judges should go to jail for criminals they release who kill someone. That's a good common sense question. What's good for the goose should be good for the gander, right? That's a very good common sense question, right? And I think if I had owned a bar to this very day and I would be getting charged or sued, I think I bring that up in a court of law and see what the judge's face would look like, right? Of letting people on bail that have a past history of rape and they go and rape someone else. You know what I mean? I think that's a great precedence for the people that might be going through this. Isn't it a good common sense question? Let's see what you guys have to say. Ask the family of a hot Ukrainian chick who got murdered. Yep. Remember that one? That is very true what you just posted. Because the moment you stop paying your property tax, you lose it. And that right there should be an eye-opener for everyone. Just what could have been revealed. You own the home, but not the land it's on. Yeah, you're a tenant of the land. Exactly. So anyway, so that's a good common sense question. I do believe. And speaking of that, this is a 4-minute and 44-second video. All right. I want you guys, this is a very common sense video. It's long. It's 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, but the question we as taxpayers have to ask ourselves is this question. When we say we're in debt and we have a deficit, the question I ask, and every country that's in debt, including the United States, of trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, here's a good video of who are we in debt with? All right? Who are we in debt with? Check this out.
Every country on earth is in debt. The United States owes $38 trillion. Japan owes $9 trillion. The entire planet owes $315 trillion, 3 times the size of the global economy. But here's the paradox that should terrify you. If everyone owes money, who exactly is owed? The answer isn't what you think. Because when you follow the chain of creditors, when you track who actually holds the debt, you discover something disturbing. The world doesn't owe money to anyone in particular. It owes money to itself. But 4 men, 4 bankers across 3 centuries, designed it that way, deliberately. They built a system where debt can never be repaid, where governments borrow forever, where interest flows eternally upward, and where the people who designed the trap profit from every payment, every crisis, every bailout. This isn't conspiracy. This is documented history. The meetings happened, the contracts exist, the mechanisms are public record. And once you see how they built it, you'll understand why $38 trillion isn't a problem to be solved. It's the system working exactly as designed. Let me show you the 4 architects, the 4 moments when the debt trap was engineered, and why every government on earth is now caught inside it with no way out. Before 1694, kings borrowed money the old way. They'd go to merchants or nobles, promise repayment with interest, and if they couldn't pay, they'd default. Creditors lost money. Kings borrowed from someone else. It was risky for lenders and embarrassing for kings, but it was contained. Debt was temporary, either repaid or defaulted. The system cleared. William Paterson changed everything. He was a Scottish merchant and financial schemer who tried and failed multiple times to get rich. In 1691, he had an idea that would reshape civilization. England was at war with France. King William III needed money desperately. The treasury was empty. Tax revenue couldn't cover war costs. And traditional lenders were refusing new loans because England had defaulted before. Paterson approached the king with a proposal. He would organize a group of wealthy merchants to lend the government £1.2 million. That's about 300 million in today's money. A massive sum. But here's the innovation. The loan would never be repaid. Instead, the government would pay interest forever, 8% annually. And to manage this arrangement, Paterson proposed creating a new institution, the Bank of England. The mechanics were revolutionary. The merchant lenders would give their gold to the Bank of England. The bank would lend it to the government. The government would pay interest annually from tax revenue, and the bank would pay that interest to the merchant lenders. But here's the critical detail. The government wouldn't repay the principal, ever. The loan was permanent. Why would merchants accept this? Because the interest payment was guaranteed by Parliament. It was backed by the government's taxing power. As long as England could tax its citizens, the interest would flow. And the banknotes the lenders received in exchange for their gold could be traded. They were as good as money, better than money, because they paid interest. Parliament approved Paterson's scheme in 1694. The Bank of England was chartered. The merchants provided their gold. The government got its war funding. And for the first time in history, national debt became permanent. Not a problem to solve, a feature of the system. And here's what nobody explains about why this was brilliant for the bankers. The government paid 8% interest annually on £1.2 million. That's £96,000 per year, forever. The merchants had essentially bought an annuity from the government. As long as England existed, as long as it could tax, the money flowed. And if they wanted their gold back, they could sell the banknotes to someone else. The debt was transferable but never repayable. But Paterson's real genius was what came next. The Bank of England was given the right to issue banknotes backed by the government's debt. They could print paper money up to the value of the loan. This created money out of debt. The government's IOU became currency. And the more the government borrowed, the more money could be created. This is the template. Government borrows, never repays principal, pays interest forever. And the debt itself becomes money. It's brilliant if you're a banker. Catastrophic if you're a taxpayer. Because you're paying interest on debt that will never disappear. Within 50 years, every major European power copied the model. France created the Banque Générale. The Netherlands already had sophisticated banking, but formalized government debt issuance. And by 1790, the newly independent United States adopted the same system. Alexander Hamilton, who we talked about before, explicitly modeled America's financial system on the Bank of England: permanent debt, interest paid from taxes, bonds traded as currency. Paterson died in 1719, not particularly wealthy, despite creating the Bank of England. But the system he built persists 331 years later. The Bank of England still exists. British government debt has never been paid off. It's been refinanced, rolled over, and expanded, but never eliminated. The debt trap was set in 1694, and every government since has walked into it willingly.
I hope that explained and taught you guys a lot, because it taught me exactly, because I couldn't figure why, how, and who do we owe the money to with the amount of taxes we pay, and who are we in debt to. So, I mean, I tend to believe the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are in there somewhere, especially in the 1800s. All right, just to let you know, especially when it comes to the financial banking and that. So he did his research. Don't get me wrong; it makes a lot of sense. But I also know for a fact that the Rothschilds banking system is in there somewhere in that whole, that whole analogy. I mean, I just couldn't figure out where this money goes and who do we owe this money of trillions of dollars. You got to be printing a lot of money for one country like the United States to owe $36 trillion. You don't even know what that looks like if you were to take $100 bills. How many gymnasiums it would fill to make $36 trillion. You understand? That's a lot of gymnasiums. I don't know personally what it would look like, but I'm sure it'd be a few gymnasiums, good sized gymnasiums that I would think. Let's see. What else did I have? Yeah, since someone mentioned about Governor DeSantis, yes, I know he's making a bill to get rid of property tax. I mentioned that, but the governor of the United States of Florida just signed a new law prohibiting the teaching of kindergarten children anything related to sexual orientation. The Walt Disney Company intervened and decided to stop its donation to the state in protest of the decision. Can you imagine that? In response, he issued a decision to revoke its privileges to manage public parks and festivals, raise taxes on it, and said maybe Disney wants to, I can't read what it says, but maybe Disney, whatever. Either way, we all know what Walt Disney is a complete grooming for young kids. You shouldn't be bringing your kids there. I know my son always wanted me to bring him to Walt Disney, but it's never going to happen. I shared this a long time ago, and someone brought it up to me, and I was like, yeah, I know, I've already talked about it. But for the people that didn't know or only started following me not too long ago or for a year or two, we all know about chemical trails, all right? We all know about chemical trails. The question I ask you, what is the 2 major chemicals that they put in the chemical trails that you know of? All right. Now, I think a lot of people will know this, but let's just see, because I like interaction. We got 4 minutes left. What are the 2 major poisons, I guess you could say, that they have been finding in the chemical trails that they were spraying us with? Here's just an eye opener. Okay. So Jeanette says aluminum. Roberta says barium. Does anybody alert? See, I know you guys were going to get it all. Aluminum and barium. Aluminum and barium, right? No, not glycine, maybe, but aluminum and barium. Now, the question I ask you guys is this. All right? Take a look. There we go. Martin got it. So, do you guys know what the actual chemical names, like on the periodic table, of what the periodic symbols is for barium? It's Ba. And then the symbol for aluminum is Al. BaAl. So without Martin giving the answer, which he already did, he always screws my stuff up, is when you combine barium and aluminum and the 2 periodic makes ball. Exactly. Is that coincidence, guys? Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe we're just conspiracies, losing our mind. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as coincidence. But, I've shared that a long time ago. Someone brought it up and I said, hey, we got some newbies on here just to, make people think, yeah, it spells ball. All right. And we all know who ball is. All right. So besides that, I want to thank you guys for spending an exact hour with me for tonight's Freedom Podcast, Real Truth with Common Sense, because it's actually real and raw truth. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back Monday night, just to let you guys know. I don't know if there's any major things coming, even though there's a couple things coming down the pipeline. I can't give you guys that news because I don't want to look stupid if that doesn't happen. But the best thing to let you guys know, there's nothing what Carney says that's ever going to come true. Just to let you know. I guess that's the best advice I can give to you, is whatever you see or hear from Mark Carney, it's got nothing to do with what he plans or is going to do, I guess you could say. At the end of the day, laugh at it. Don't worry about it. Stop it, because they live off our fear. It's never going to happen. It's all about disclosure. All right. That's all it is. Disclosure. With that being said, I love you guys all. Have a great weekend. And like Don Cherry says, you people hold that line. Enjoy the weekend. I don't know what the weather holds, but either way, it is what it is. Christmas is around the corner. I'm getting excited. I love this time of the year. Here's an outro video with a little Donald Trump, who, God bless him. That's all I got to say. God bless him. And if you hate Donald Trump, you shouldn't be watching my podcast. You can watch it and probably learn some stuff, but please don't put anything negative about Donald Trump, because you'll get blocked. And if you get blocked from me, it's just you're going to lose a lot of information that you wish you had. All right. Adios, amigos. I love you guys all.
know what this represents? It's the calm before the storm.
What's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.